Seeker Masterclass. It is the 8th of December. It's our final workshop for 2023. And in today's masterclass, we're going to talk about all the things that you need to do to prepare for looking for your next job, but also, I guess what you can do over the Christmas break, over the January period, because there are some changes in the market. There's no doubt about it that recruitment goes into a little bit of a slowdown, particularly probably between now and the middle of January. And so if you're not even working at the moment and looking for work full time, you need to be aware of that. And you need to be aware that, the amount of vacancies that are coming on to the market over the next 4 to 6 weeks are going to be, dramatically reduced. However, what we always find in recruitment, that is come around Australia Day, that's kind of the tipping point. The week before Australia Day is pretty quiet. And then once we get past Australia Day, recruitment activity right across Australia normally picks up because students are back at school, parents are back at work, holidays are finished, and there's a real backlog. There's normally a real backlog of vacancies to fill. On top of that, a lot of people resign early in the new year. They've stayed in their current role up until Christmas. They've had a New Year's resolution. A lot of those things lead to a large amount of people resigning throughout the first 6 weeks of the year. So my message to you at the moment is, if you have been finding that over the last couple of weeks things have started to slow down, then one of the great things you can be aware of is knowing that things are going to pick up. So good luck throughout the Christmas period. So let's get into that today. So today, as I said, it's our masterclass. It's our Job Seeker Masterclass. We're going to be touching on many topics today. So we run a lot of workshops. For today's workshop, we are just sort of lightly touching on everything. We're not going to take a super deep dive into many of the topics, but we're going to touch on everything. And you can view some of our other resources if you want to get stuck into a lot more detail with some of the topics. So just a little bit of housekeeping to begin with. If I drop off the line, I'm broadcasting to you live today. If I drop off the line for any reason, please stay on the line and wait for me to rejoin. I don't know where you're watching, but it's very hot where I am, 34 degrees. So hopefully the heat doesn't interrupt too many of the utilities. I've got a friend that works in electricity supply, so I'll be blaming him if there's any blackouts or brownouts or something along those lines. But I do know I've got people joining us right around Australia, Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, Brisbane, Beaufort, Mildura, Moorabbin, Cabarita, lots of different places. So it's great to have many people on the line. In fact, I think we've even got somebody from Texas who said they were going to jump on today because they're looking for work. All right, ask lots of questions. So depending where you're watching this, you should be able to see on your screen there that you can ask questions. I'll be asking you to pop in your response to some of the questions we go through, and that really helps me to be able to know what's of interest to you. Take lots of notes. So one of the things about attending today's workshop is you will have the opportunity to watch a replay, which is great. You can come back and watch something, or you might go to a follow-up resource. But it's also really important to remember how something makes you feel the first time you hear it, because that's when it's going to have the most rawest, the most real impact. So take notes as you're going. I'd really encourage you to do that. All right, so as I said before, we're gonna lightly touch on a lot of topics today, and I'm hoping that you still get some key outcomes yourself. So what are those actual topics going to be? So I'm going to start off by talking to you about what I think you need to know at the beginning of your job search. So what are some of the things you need to do right at the start? Now, you might not be at the start. You might have been looking for some time now, but there's no reason why you can't apply these lessons. The importance of mindset and attitude during the recruitment process and how you can use that to your advantage. How an effective elevator pitch can make all the difference. How to get started on creating a great resume. So as I said before, we're not going to spend the whole time going into one particular topic. We've actually got 6 different coaching videos on interviews. We've got 4 different coaching videos on resume creation. So today we're just going to go through talking about how to get started on creating a great resume, and we'll point you to some follow-up resources. We'll also then do the same with cover letters. We're going to talk about why they still matter and how you can nail it. How you can effectively call up a recruiter about a job if you see something advertised you're interested in. We will go through some interview preparation. We're going to talk about effective communication. And then we're going to finish on salary negotiation before opening it up to you to ask any questions that you like. But even as we're going along, feel free to pop in questions. They'll pop up on my screen and I can answer them in real time as we're going along. Okay, so before though, I need to tell you who I am and why I'm in the position of being able to coach you on finding your next job. So as I said, my name's James Whitcomb. I'm a director at Smart Recruitment. We're an award-winning recruitment agency in Australia. I've been working in recruitment since 2005, just past my 18-year mark. And in that time, conservatively, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews, over 600 group assessments, and really focusing within those roles on recruiting roles where soft skills and interview behavior are key. So things like customer service roles, sales roles, roles where skills are important and qualifications are important, but how you behave and how you present and how you show up during the recruitment process is just as important. And I launched the Candidate Coach in December 2019. So we're 4 years old this month, which is great. So let me start off by talking to you about what you need to know before you begin looking for work. Now, as I said before, you might have been looking for work for a while. You might be sitting there going, James, I've been looking for work for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 3 days, or maybe you are at the very start of the process. Maybe you're currently happily employed and you're thinking, you know what, 2024 is the year. Once I come back after the Christmas and New Year break, I'm going to start looking for work. Whatever position you're in, you can still take on this advice. But if you're really at the very beginning, this is what I would really encourage you to do, is to know what you're getting yourself into. So first of all, planning will save you time, effort, and very importantly, planning will save you sanity. So what do I mean by that? Well, I want you to think about what type of work do you really want to do? Not very often in your life will you actually get the opportunity to sit down and think, what type of work do I want to do? Most people, when they look for work, look for something quite similar to what their previous role was. It's just our default position. I would encourage you, though, to have a think. What is it that you actually want to do? And are you finding that in your current job? I'd also encourage you to think, where are your skills and experience going to be most valued? So in particular, if you need to find work quite quickly, you need to think of yourself from the employer's point of view or from potential employers' point of view. Who would value what you can bring to the table more so than anybody else? What companies, what organizations would value what you've done? A lot of the time, it is going to be the competitors or similar organizations to ones that you've previously worked in as well. So I want you to just stop applying for roles that you aren't suitably qualified or interested in. And one of the challenges with the job boards these days is that it is so easy for you to apply for jobs. Seek, Indeed, LinkedIn, and the rest. They have what they call one-click apply now, where you can literally just click a button and you've applied for a job. Now, that's great because of the convenience. But what it really means is that we get a lot of job seekers who end up applying for hundreds of jobs, many of which you're not really interested in, but you're putting in an application just to see what happens. I'd really discourage you from doing that because you're going to waste time, you're going to waste effort, you're going to get rejected a lot more than you need to, and it's going to be bad for your self-esteem. So I would really encourage you just to focus on applying for roles that you're suited, skilled, and interested in. Interest is a really big one. Number two, you need to understand that researching your market thoroughly, I want to underline that word thoroughly there, will allow you to be a smart and targeted job seeker. So I'm not just saying, research the company. I'm not just saying research the business, but your actual industry. So how many vacancies are there in the industry that you're looking for work? If you're looking for work in an industry where there's only 3 vacancies, you need to approach those 3 vacancies very differently than if you're looking for, say, a customer service role in Melbourne where there might be 800 vacancies. You've got a very different approach there. So you really need to understand how many vacancies are in your industry. Which recruiters advertise your jobs? So the jobs that you're looking for, which recruiters advertise them? Are there recruiters that pop up consistently that specialize in recruiting the types of roles you're interested in? Which 2 jobs are you going to apply for each day? So in my coaching across all of my topics, I say to job seekers, I only want you to apply for a maximum of 2 jobs every day. Now you might say, James, but I'm full-time unemployed. I'm sitting here for 10 hours a day. Why can I only apply for 2 jobs? Well, I want you to put effort into every single application. I want you to shortlist the jobs you're going for. I want you to rule out any that aren't really good for you. And then I want you to focus all of your attention onto putting in high quality applications. So high quality applications for a lower number of jobs is going to get you a far better outcome than putting in low quality applications to a high number of jobs. And if you still are putting in 2 applications a day and you're looking for work for 3 or 4 weeks, we are still talking about 30 to 40 applications there. And you need to be able to track your applications. You want to know what you've applied for and where your application sits. So stop rushing out and applying for as many jobs as possible and start approaching it more thoroughly and thoughtfully. Okay, number 3, the way you handle rejection may actually help you land a job. Hang on, what do you mean, James? The way I handle rejection can actually help me land a job? So what I mean by this is really twofold. I want you to be prepared for the fact that you're going to get rejected a lot. And if you've been sending off applications recently, you will understand this. You are going to get rejected a lot. And even if you think you've got a really tough exterior, rejection can wear you down. So it's really important to understand that rejection is a normal part of looking for work, and that each rejection gets you closer to your next job. The second thing I'd like you to consider here is that just because an employer rejects you this time around doesn't necessarily mean that they might not have something else that's suitable or have you in mind for something else. Particularly if you're going through a recruitment agency, they might call you up to tell you you've been unsuccessful for role A, but they have role B, C, and D that they'd like to talk to you about. Now, if you handle that rejection in a polite and professional manner, they will talk to you about those other roles. But if you, bite back and get argumentative and difficult to deal with, then they're not going to talk to you about those roles. So how you actually handle rejection may actually help you land your next job. I want to ask you a question, and I want you to type your answer here into the chat box if you're watching in a place where you can type in. I know many of you aren't, but how are you actually feeling today? Pick from this list of emojis. Are you feeling Stuart Dew style on top of the world? You've just kicked a couple of goals in the grand final. Are you feeling a bit forlorn? Are you feeling a bit disheartened? Are you scared about the future? How are you feeling today? Please pop into our chat function how you're actually feeling. I can see lots of responses coming through there. Most people feeling a bit happy. Some people feeling a bit, couple of worried faces, a couple of nerves. So the reason I ask you this question is I've got a follow-up question to this. How do you present yourself as a job seeker? How do you present yourself as a job seeker? I want you to use the same scale here. Whoops. I want you to use the same scale here. How would you describe yourself as a job seeker? How do you present yourself on your resume, on your cover letter, in interview? I really want to understand how you present yourself as a job seeker. So again, type into the comments how you present yourself as a job seeker there. So why am I actually asking you this? Why am I asking you how you present yourself as a job seeker? I want to share a quote with you about the importance of having a job-winning attitude and mindset. So this quote comes from Ryan Biggs. He's one of our coaches, and this was when he was the head of recruitment at an organisation called the Australian Financial Complaints Authority. Ryan said, I will always go for someone with a fantastic attitude that may need a little bit of development over someone who has all of the skill but a bad attitude. So he will pick somebody with a great attitude that needs a little bit of development over someone with all the skill that has a bad attitude. And we see this a lot in recruitment. We see candidates who have great skills, who have great experience, but they have a really poor attitude. On the flip side, if you can be the friendliest, most responsive, politest, easiest to deal with candidate, great at building rapport, maintaining good eye contact, and positive overall, you can significantly increase the chances of getting the job. So put yourself in the shoes of the recruiter. Who would you rather employ from this list? If you had to choose somebody from this list to work with, who would you choose? You're not going to choose Mr. Angry Face down here, the red one. You're probably going to go for someone around the top left there, the smiley person. I've got quite a few smiley paper here. Maybe not the blowing kisses one, but you get the point here. Who would you rather employ? Someone with a great attitude and a great mindset, or someone who doesn't? You're naturally going to go for the first one. So how do we actually show this positive attitude? Well, first of all, you can choose to be positive. Now, I'm not asking you that, for the next 3 months, you have to be the world's most positive, bubbly person and you can't show any other emotion. I don't mean that at all. But what I do mean is that every time you are working on an application, whether it's your resume, whether you're reading through jobs, especially when you're speaking to somebody about your employment future, choose to be positive. Choose to be positive in that moment, in that mindset. It is up to you. Secondly, choose to be positive. Before you apply, as I said, before you have a phone interview. So just remind yourself, okay, I've got a phone interview in 5 minutes. Maybe you haven't had a great day. Maybe you've had a bad morning, you've spilt the coffee, you've had an argument with your partner, but you need to leave that behind and you need to present the very best version of yourself. Definitely at face-to-face interviews as well. And consider, how do I want to be remembered? When you walk out of that room, when you hang up that phone, what do you want the recruiter to think of you? Do they want them to think of you as somebody who's positive and upbeat, or somebody who's a bit downtrodden? And thirdly, follow up with the recruiter. This is a great way for you to show your attitude and mindset is following up. So stop being negative, whinging, complaining, arguing, or being unresponsive, because all of those things show a bad attitude. Okay, quick activity. I want you to get out a pen and paper or open up another tab on your browser, wherever you are. I'm just going to give you a moment to do that and have a sip of my caramel latte. Actually, no, it's hazelnut. Sorry, hazelnut latte. All right. So actually, instead of answering the following, I want you to write down the following. I want you to just write what you see on the screen there. 1, name. Hopefully that one's easy for you. 2, write down overview of your work history. So don't answer this question now. Just write it down. 3, your top 3 skills. And 4, the type of work you're looking for. The type of work you're looking for. So if you know what we're going to do here, I did mention it before, feel free to mention it in the comments, what we're on about here. But what we're going to do now is we're going to create an elevator pitch. So an elevator pitch is a brief, persuasive speech. A brief, persuasive speech. And it is used a lot in sales. It gets its name from the following scenario. Let's imagine you have an interview this afternoon on the 50th floor of a building in the Melbourne CBD. Now you get to reception, you get to the elevator, you press the button, ding, the door's open, you walk in, you press 50, ding. Just before the door shuts, in behind you walks the person that you're about to meet with. And they say, oh, hello, good to see you. Look, while we're going up to the 50th floor, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself? And so you have that journey of going up 50 floors, that's 60 to 90 seconds to talk about yourself, to basically pitch yourself. And so we use an elevator pitch a lot in sales because you've got a brief period of time to pitch yourself or to pitch your wares. It's something, though, that comes in very handy, and I'm answering my own question there, when looking for work. So why is it going to come in handy? Because the most common interview question in the world is, tell me a little bit about yourself. I use this question at the beginning of every conversation with a new candidate, whether it's a telephone interview, whether it's a face-to-face interview, whether it's even more casual than that. I love to start off the conversation with, tell me a little bit about yourself. Now, most job seekers think, oh, this is a very friendly question. It's pretty light, but don't drop your guard here. This is a really important way for you to give a great first impression. So if you have a very succinct and fluent answer to the question, tell me a little bit about yourself, you're going to get off to a wonderful start. So the answer to tell me a little bit about yourself, though, is your elevator pitch. So let's talk about how we can create a really great one. As I said before, these are the 4 basic parts. And again, I'll give you 1 minute to write this down if you didn't write it down before. These are the 4 basic parts to an elevator pitch. All right, so I'm going to read out one that I've written in advance, okay? And you'll see the dark purple, which is the heading. So my name is James Whitcomb. Overview of my work history. For 15 years, I've worked in recruitment, beginning as a recruitment consultant before progressing on to management and then on to being a director, my current position. My top skills would include interviewing candidates in a way that uncovers their true motivation, public speaking and presenting, as well as coaching and training candidates to ensure they are giving themselves the best chance of landing a job. I'm currently looking for a new role where I can focus more of my time on training, coaching, and developing candidates as opposed to being a recruiter. So first of all, I don't want you to be too intimidated. I coach people on how to write elevator pitches, so my elevator pitch needs to be quite reasonable myself. But you can see there from that delivery that I've given you in probably about 45 seconds that you probably feel like you know quite a bit about me. So what I want you to do is to go away and to do the same. So I want you to go away and create your elevator pitch. I want you to answer those questions. And I want you to rewrite your elevator pitch a number of times until you've got it perfect. When you feel like you've got it perfect, I want you to type it up on the computer and I want you to print it out. I want you to save a copy in your phone and put a printed copy stuck on the bench at home, on your fridge, in your handbag, or your man bag if you have one. The reason I want you to have it on you all the time is because if somebody calls you up about a position you've applied for and they say, hey, have you got 10 minutes to chat? And you say, oh, yes, I do. And they say, great. Well, just to start off, tell me a bit about yourself. You're going to go, oh, my elevator pitch. And then you'll think, oh, what is it? But if you can just look down at your phone or look at the fridge or look at the note, you'll see your elevator pitch there and it'll be able to come back to you quite quickly. So print it out, save it in places where you can find it, and then finally use it. This is a really good way for you to give a great first impression at each step of the recruitment process. And it's a great way for you to create a great first impression wherever you go in your life. And as we know, a lot of the recruitment process, it's all about rhythm. It's all about getting in a really good rhythm. It's about investing into a rhythm that works well for you. And so if you can practice some of these things and they roll off the tongue, you're going to get into a rhythm that's going to hopefully be really profitable for you. Okay, my next question. Oh, I love this one. I do want you to type this into the comment box for me. How long do you think a recruiter spends reading your resume? Pop this one in for me because we always get some very interesting responses here. How long does a recruiter spend reading your resume? All right, 2 minutes, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 1 second. Oh, that's a bit more, but not at all. It's read by a computer. 30 seconds, 1 minute. Okay, so lots of different responses coming through. Well, let me share this with you. An eye tracking study shows that recruiters look at resumes for 7 seconds. 7 seconds. That's not very long, is it? That is a really short period of time. So let's have a look in a little bit more detail about what this article said. So they studied recruiters spend an initial screen of 7 minutes. Resumes that succeeded in capturing the recruiter's attention featured a simple layout. So we want it to be simple with clear section and heading titles. Resumes that are organized by E or F pattern. So the E or F pattern, I want you to imagine a piece of paper with a massive capital E or a massive capital F on it. So we've got lots of things that sort of come off the spine. They did well as bold titles and bulleted accomplishments. Resumes did not fare well when they had cluttered layouts, lack of white space, so we like to see some white space, multiple columns and long sentences. We don't want any of those. A lack of section or job headers also turned recruiters off, as did text that did not flow down the page. So they're just a couple of tips for you there. Now, as I mentioned before, today's workshop, we're just touching on a lot of different topics. We don't have time to do a full resume coaching. If you jump onto candidatecoach.com.au, you'll be able to find 3 coaching videos there and templates that you can download to create a great resume. So what I want to talk to you about today, though, is how do you actually create your resume to be what we call an achievements-based resume? How do you make it so that it is full of achievements and really standing out? So I'm going to share an example with you of someone whose resume, someone who I helped with their resume a few years ago. So, but first we need to understand exactly what a resume is. It's a factual account of your employment and your study history. So it's factual. It's got dates, it's got time, it's probably got locations, it's got titles. It's factual. It's kind of chronological. It's kind of like a history. But it also needs to highlight your achievements and abilities and sell you. So this is the key thing here. Your resume needs to sell you. So again, in the comments box, type in your answer. Do you think your resume sells you? Do you think your resume is an advertisement for you? When you're driving along in your car and you go past a billboard and they're trying to sell a product, does your resume come across like that? Is your resume saying, buy me, pick me, choose me? Because it really should. It's a marketing document. So how do we sell this experience? So we're just going to talk about how we focus on your experience. So I want you to think about your last role or your current role as you go through this, whether you're on the cash register at a Porto, or whether you're a CEO of an ASX listed company. This advice is going to be relevant to you. So this was the candidate that I was working with. This is how they described their role. They said they were the sales representative for a company. I've taken the company name off there. They did it for 3 years, as you can see. And this is how they described their role. They were a salesperson for the company for 3 years. They sold goods and traveled to meet customers and keep them happy. So that's okay. Yep, okay, we get that. Sales rep for 3 years, visited customers, sold goods, and keep them and made them happy. Okay, yep. But it's kind of like, so what? Does this really sell the person? Does this really explain to me how good they are? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I work with this person, and this is what we change this job into. So this is the after. So the first thing you'll see here is we've broken it down into 2 parts. We've got primary responsibilities and achievements. Let's start with primary responsibilities. Now we use the word primary here because we can't list all of your responsibilities. We can't list them all. And the responsibilities that you list here, they change from job application to job application because every advertisement you read is different. No 2 jobs are exactly the same. We can only put up the top here 6 or 7 dot points. So we need to make sure that we're putting 6 or 7 dot points up the top here that are super relevant to the job, that are super relevant. So as you can see here, this person maintained regular contact with a large portfolio of business clients, discuss current infrastructure, networking, internet and phone requirements with clients, receive and resolve outages. So I won't read out all the dot points there. The third one from the bottom I really like. Attend at least 3 new business appointments a day. This helps to give me a great understanding. When you can use numbers in your resume, it helps to quantify things and it helps to make things easy for the recruiter to understand. I've actually popped in, I think, 9 dot points here. This is probably slightly more than I'd recommend, especially if some of the dot points are a little bit longer. But that responsibilities area there gives me such a better insight. They went to at least 3 new business appointments per day, and I know a lot more about what they were doing. Now, achievements, though, is where the story really kicks off. So this person was the salesperson of the year in 2014, exceeding their sales budget by 21%. Salesperson of the year 2014. Guess what this person received as a prize for being the salesperson of the year in 2014? A new car. They received a brand new car for being the salesperson of the year that year. This is the only person I have met in 3,000 interviews that received a brand new car for how well they did in the job because they were salesperson of the year. Unbelievable. Salesperson of the year. The sad thing is, on their previous resume version, they didn't even put that they were salesperson of the year. So here we've got it, salesperson of the year, exceeding sales budget by 21%. We've got some other dot points there. That, again, the third one I really liked, helped increase product sales in Melbourne from 400,000 to 800,000. So again, we're using numbers here. So this is what we call an achievements-based resume. So if we go back to the previous, let's go back to the previous. This is what they had. This is not achievements-based. This does not sell their experience. This one here does. Now, where my eye goes when I'm looking at somebody's resume now is to the achievements. So if you have been working in fast food at KFC, for example, and you've been there for 3 years, I've got a pretty good idea on what you did. I'm actually not that interested in what your responsibilities are. I want to go straight to achievements and see how well you did it. So again, if you've been at KFC for 3 years and you're thinking, James, all I've done at KFC for 3 years is work on the cash register. I don't even know the recipe for the secret herbs and spices. Let me ask you this question. What are you doing in your job in your 3rd year that you weren't doing when you started? What extra responsibilities have you been given over the last 3 years? Have you been asked to train and help onboard new people? That's an achievement. You can list that. Have you been given extra responsibilities, maybe cashing up the till or locking up the store? That's some extra achievements. Did you receive any Employee of the Month awards? They're obviously achievements. Have a think about it. In some ways, I actually don't mind what you list under achievements. I just want to see some things listed here. It shows me you've got pride in your work, and it helps me get a better understanding. A couple of other quick points on resumes. Sell your skills, experience, and achievements, as we've mentioned. Make it easy to read. In that first article there that I shared, making your resume easy to read is absolutely crucial. If you have the best achievements in the world, but they're very hard to read, it's not going to get read. Your resume should be visually appealing. It's okay to be bold. And in our resume coaching videos, we provide templates, but we also say use a tool like Canva. Use something that's graphically designed. But it must be tailored for every job. So as I said before, every role that you apply for is different. So if you are applying for 20 jobs this month and you sent the same resume out 20 times, that role, that resume is going to be probably very relevant, hopefully, to one job. And each job after that gets less and less relevant. You've got to tailor it. It needs to only take 5 minutes, but if you don't, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're being lazy and you're not going to get the outcome that you're looking for. All right. Let's have a short break. I'm not going to have a short break. I think I'm going pretty well today. Do anyone need a break? Pop in the comments if you need a break. Not getting anything popped in there. So let's keep going. All right. What are we going to cover in the second part? I'll skip right through this because we're going to get straight into it. Let's talk about cover letters. So this is a question, again, I'd like you to type your answer in here. Are you submitting a cover letter with every application? Type your answer into the comments box and let me know, because I want to paint this picture to you. A lot of people like to say, oh, cover letters are a bit outdated. Some recruiters don't even read them. So that's true. Some recruiters don't read them. The hard thing for you is, do you know the recruiter that you're applying to? Do you know what their preference level is for cover letters? If you don't know that, you have to submit a cover letter. I actually work with recruiters, and some of them actually like to read the cover letter before they read the resume. So if you don't have a cover letter, they might not even read your resume. And as a job applicant, you can only submit 2 things, a resume and a cover letter. So why would you pass on one of those things? Not submitting a cover letter basically is a huge risk. So hopefully you've got my point there. I'm really passionate about cover letters, and I think it is one way that you can make yourself stand out from the rest of the pack. Okay, so let's talk about what a good cover letter looks like though. So first of all, it's different to a resume because we write it like a letter. We personalize it. It's to a person. We need to do a lot of research, even more research for our cover letter than for our resume, and we need to include that information to show. It's only ever 1 page long, unless the job advertisement has said, please address the following things in your cover letter, and that takes you over 1 page. A cover letter is never more than 1 page. You need to proofread it multiple times. You would be amazed at how often a cover letter has a mistake or a whole lot of mistakes. Stop submitting the same cover letter for every vacancy. So even more so than resumes, your cover letter needs to be personalised and different for every job. So this is my 4-paragraph simple formula. Now, you would have heard, as we mentioned before, about KFC. I've got a very good friend who used to work at KFC. He worked at KFC for a long time, and we used to shake him upside down because we wanted him to deliver the secret herbs and spices, but he would never tell. He would never tell, no matter how much we threatened. However, I'm going to give you my secret herbs and spices recipe to the perfect cover letter. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to take a long time. A great cover letter is just 4 simple paragraphs. And what you're going to see here is that paragraph 1 and paragraph 4 are only 1 or 2 sentences. So in the first paragraph, we need to specifically address the role and company that we are applying to. 2 sentences should be enough. So, dear Adam, please find attached my resume for the role of restaurant manager with company name. So, sorry, I'll say that again. Please find attached my resume with a portfolio. So straight away, we're letting the person know. Now, it's amazing how you probably are in the top 20% of cover letters if you just do this one thing. If you just do this one thing, then that will really help you to stand out. Paragraph number 2, mention 2 or 3 things that you know about the organization or the vacancy. 2 or 3 things that you know about the organization or the vacancy. So we need to do some research here. So if we're applying for a job with a Porto, we need to do some research. We need to go onto their website. We need to go onto their careers pages. We want to find out some information in the news. So we want to mention a couple of different things here to show that we've done some research. Paragraph 3, we want to talk about us. So paragraph 2 is about them, the job. Paragraph 2 is about us. It's about me. It's about you. We want to mention a couple of key skills or experience here. Second line is the most important, that are relevant to the advertisement or the position. So if you're currently studying accounting and you're applying for a job at a Porto, you know, that is not really relevant, the fact that you're studying accounting. If you have a great interest in hospitality and you've previously worked in hospitality, then that is of great interest and far more relevant. And paragraph 4, it's a brief conclusion. So it's, Adam, thanks very much for taking the time to read my cover letter. I look forward to hearing back from you soon. All right, so here's one I prepared earlier that I'm going to read out to you. Now, again, I'm a recruiter of 18 years. I should know how to write a good cover letter. But I have applied my own 4-paragraph formula here. So, dear Rupert, I'm applying to you as an enthusiastic applicant for the marketing coordinator vacancy with Duke Industries. So, first of all, that sounds like a great start to the cover letter. But all I've done is I've mentioned the person's name, Rupert, the job title, marketing coordinator, and the company, Duke Industries. As I said before, I guarantee you that if you do just this, you are in the top 20% of cover letters. The top 20% straight away. All right, moving on. Paragraph number 2. So remember, this is where we're going to start talking about the company. So I've long followed Duke Industries and was impressed to see them win an award at last month's National Marketing Awards. To be recognised for digital innovation is a great achievement. As a passionate marketing graduate, I've long studied Duke's graduate marketing program and am impressed with their commitment to both technical and holistic learning. So that sounds really impressive, doesn't it? But all that information could be found out in about 2 or 3 minutes through Duke Industries' website, through their social media. It's quite a short paragraph, really, but we've already shown that we're really interested. Okay, paragraph number 3 now. We're going to move the focus onto us. And we need to talk about a couple of things from our background that are really relevant to the role, bearing in mind the role is a marketing coordinator position. So whilst completing my master's in marketing, tick, last year, I was given the opportunity to work as an intern in the marketing department at Rosenberg and Associates. This 12-month placement included 4 rotations. However, it was digital marketing which I enjoyed the most. I worked with several of our top-tier clients and gained great exposure. I was awarded Intern of the Year from a pool of 20. So, I mean, the Intern of the Year thing, I just added that there to really make it sound A grade. You probably can't add something like that, or maybe you can. But again, here you'll see in that paragraph, I've really said why I'm relevant to the job, why I'm relevant. You can do that too. And then paragraph 4 is that simple sign off. I look forward to hearing back from you regarding my application. I'll be able to make myself available to meet at short notice. So if we go back, we've just used our simple 4-paragraph formula here. It's not overly complicated. It doesn't need to take you 2 days to write a personalized and attractive cover letter. If you can apply this formula, you're in the top 2% of cover letters. Guarantee it. Here's another layout though. So again, we talk about graphic design. Your cover letter and your resume needs to sell you. So you decide though. It's not up to me. It's up to you. What do you think sells you better? The first one here or the second one? So all the content is the same here from Dear Rupert down. You'll see Dear Rupert down. But what I've done here is I've added a headshot, I've added a profile and a bit more information. Personally, I would choose to use this cover letter, but I can understand why people might prefer this one. This is up to you. What do you think sells you better? All right, let's take a moment and think about it. We've come a long way for working through the application process. We've researched, we've found the right role, we've created a great elevator pitch, we've tailored our resume, and we've submitted it, and we've clicked send, and we've sent it off. We've sent it off via Seeker, Indeed, or wherever. So I've got a question for you, and I want you to answer this in the chat function. Now what? What are you doing after you send off your application? Are you doing anything at all? I'm going to give you a moment just to have a think about what you're doing and have a think about how much time you've put into this application so far. All right. Because I want you to do something. I want you to do something very specific here. And you're probably not going to like what I'm going to tell you because it involves many of you getting out of your comfort zone. I want you to pick up the phone and to make a follow-up phone call after the application. So I know what you're thinking. I know what you're feeling. You're probably feeling like this guy. Pick up the phone and call. Are you mad, James? Are you mad? There's no way I'm calling up and speaking to a recruiter. I'm just not comfortable with it. I hate it. I couldn't think of anything worse. Well, I'm not mad. I might be a little bit mad. Some of my friends think I'm mad. Glenn thinks I'm mad. But I'm really not mad, and I need you to be brave. I need you to have just 10 seconds of courage to pick up the phone and to follow up with a phone call. The great thing is, I am going to talk to you right now about how to effectively make a phone call to a recruiter about a job. Now, let's get back into the shoes of a recruiter. Let's imagine you're recruiting and you sit down at your desk. It's a Monday morning or whenever it is, and you open up your recruitment system, and for the job that you're recruiting for, you've received 100 applications. You think, oh, gee, that's quite a lot. This is not a very hard role. You've got 100 applications there. All of a sudden, the phone rings. So you pick up the phone, and it's Reedy. He says, hello, my name's Reedy. You say, oh, hi, Reedy. He's like, I'm calling to speak about the job. Now, you've got 100 applications to read, but you've got a gentleman called Reedy on the phone who's called up to talk to you. All of a sudden, Reedy has my attention, and Reedy is the candidate that I'm looking at. So you can, in many ways, give yourself far more exposure. Now, at the end of the phone call, I might put a line through Reedy's name. He might be no good for this role at all. But Reedy has given himself far more exposure by calling up. What will mean he won't be successful, though, as well, is if he hasn't planned the call. But if he has planned the call and asked good questions, this is what can happen. So how do we actually put our best foot forward? First thing we need to do is we need to know the name of the person we're wanting to speak to. And we need to expect them to answer the phone. This is quite a funny one. But when I'm recruiting for a vacancy and I pick up the phone and someone's called me, sometimes I say, oh, I wasn't actually expecting you to answer the phone. Know who you want to speak to and expect them to answer the phone. Number 2, have everything printed out in front of you. So the advertisement, have it printed in front of you on the kitchen bench. Have your resume printed out in front of you. Have everything out in front of you so that if you get asked a question or you're nervous or you don't know what to say or your mouth goes dry, you've got all the information just in front of you here. It can give you a sense of comfort. Research the company thoroughly. Now, you really should have done this when you're doing your resume and cover letter, but have, again, all of your notes in front of you and all the things you know about the company. Be clear with the position that you're referring to. So some recruiters may have up to 50 different jobs they're recruiting for. So if you call up and say, hey, I'd love to talk to you about the vacancy, the recruiter might be like, sure, which one? So you can say, look, it's the payroll position, in the finance team. Point 5, and this is probably the most important one. Sorry that hasn't formatted very well on my screen. Have questions written down in advance that you are going to ask. This avoids brain freeze. It avoids not knowing what to say. If you can write down everything that you would like to say on the phone call in front of you. But 2 or 3 prepared questions. So we want to ask some questions here that really show us off, that make us show what we know. So this is where we need to have done our research. We need to have written out some questions that we know are going to impress the recruiter about the company, the industry, things along those lines. Keep the call brief, but be prepared for a longer conversation if the recruiter keeps the conversation going. And if you aren't feeling confident, then practice. Like with job interviewing, practice makes perfect. Ask a friend to act in the role of a recruiter and pretend. So here's a checklist. Now, you can download these checklists from our website, all the things that you need to do. My opinion is that if you want to stand out, if you want to give yourself great exposure, making a well-timed phone call is one thing that is super important. Okay, let's move on to interview. So I've got a question for you, which I want to pop up on the screen, which I know you love. How are you going to present yourself at interview? Oops, I forgot to include our emoji. So you probably know where I'm going with this. We've already sort of talked about this. How are you going to present yourself at an interview? Who's going to turn up? What persona, what personality, what level of vibrancy and enthusiasm are you going to show? Because again, from this list, what you turn up, who you turn up, and how you turn up at interview, which emoji you're going to be will impact your likelihood of success. We want to be the top left, a happy person. What I like to coach on is that at job interview, you want to be the very best version of yourself. If you turn up to interview and you are anything other than the best version of yourself, then you're not giving yourself the very best chance. Now, again, this might be something that's really hard for you to do, particularly if you've been unemployed for some time and you've been feeling quite forlorn about your chances of landing a job. I'm asking you that just for this moment, that you find some energy within to present the very best version of yourself. Be bright, be bubbly, be effervescent, be optimistic. If you walk into the interview feeling downtrodden and showing that you are downtrodden, it will come across and it will decrease your chances significantly of being successful. Some of the other things here is that practice makes perfect. Most people feel very nervous about a job interview, and understandably so, largely because they just don't practice, or even practicing makes me feel uncomfortable. Or it's a bit awkward asking my mom or my partner or my friend, to help. If you live with your housemate's called Hendo, say, hey, Hendo, come and can you just ask me some questions? Just sit across the table and just tell me what you think of my answers. I'm sure Hendo's going to say yes. Now, what that's going to allow you to do is maybe have a couple of awkward moments with Hendo, but it's better to have some awkward moments and be nervous with Hendo than to be awkward and nervous at the job interview. Mentally prepare for what is going to happen. Now, this is a really big one. By telling yourself and giving yourself an understanding that you are going to get nervous, that actually helps to deflect some of the nerves. And give yourself plenty of time. If you arrive late, you are not going to be successful. But if you arrive on time, you can hopefully stay calm. All right, so let's pretend it's the day before the interview. What do we need to do the day before the interview? We need to check and confirm our travel arrangements. How are we going to get there? We need to be on time. We need to make sure that our clothes are cleaned and ironed. Our shoes are polished. All documents are listed, are printed. Any assessments that we've done have been completed, and practiced our answers to our interview questions. If you have an interview tomorrow, I want you to do everything today. Don't leave anything to the last minute. Don't leave anything till tomorrow to get ready, because you're going to lie in bed tonight and just think about all the things you haven't done yet that you need to do tomorrow. All right, let's move to the interview day. Morning of the interview. First of all, you wake up. You probably had not a great night's sleep. Let's be honest. Alarm's gone off. It's really important that you have a full breakfast. You might feel nervous, but you need to have a full breakfast so that you have good blood sugar levels, and so that you don't get bad breath as well. Have a shower, shave, brush your teeth fresh and clean. You know, some of these are obvious. If you're a smoker, try to avoid smoking unless you have to. Leave the house with plenty of time, but prepare for the worst. So take an umbrella, take some tissues, take some mints, and arrive at location 30 to 40 minutes before the interview. Don't go to reception 30 to 40 minutes before the interview, though, because that's kind of poor judgment. Get to the location, walk around the block, have a coffee, something like that. Arrive at reception 5 to 10 minutes before. And then what do we need to take along? Well, I really recommend that you take a compendium. If you don't know what a compendium is, there's a picture of it on the screen there now. You can get one from Officeworks or probably your local news agent. And basically, it's a professional document holder. It can have some pens in it as well. Now, in your compendium, I would recommend you take with you everything that's listed there below. So take a printed copy of your resume and cover letter. You might be thinking, why? They've already got it. Well, let's just imagine that somebody walks past and jumps into the interview halfway through and they don't have a copy of your resume. You can simply lean across the table and give them one. You look organized. Or the interviewer might be looking at your resume and say, I want to talk to you about these points on your resume. You can look down because you've got a copy and you know what they're going to be referring to. Have a printed copy of your elevator pitch. Practice it a few times before you go in. The big one again, though, the main one here, like with when calling up about a job, is take along 5 or 6 pre-prepared written down questions. Because at the end of the interview, the interviewer is going to ask you, have you got any questions for me? This is the only chance you get to set the agenda. And if you can ask some really good questions here, then you can help to stand out. So you don't want to ask what's the salary, what are the, all those basic things. You want to have written down some questions here that help to show the research that you've done. Take all the other information there that we've also listed. And then after the interview, email the recruiter and thank them for their time. It's always nice to get a thank you. But key here is following through with any commitments. So if the recruiter has said, Andrew H., I really need you to go, I'm going to send you a psychometric test. Can you get that done? I'll send you the link straight after the interview. If you get home and you've received that link, do it straight away. Don't wait 24 hours, 48 hours, 3 days to do that psychometric test. Do it straight away. Show that you're responsive. And that's the type of person you're going to be like to work with. So a fair bit of this comes back to effective communication. So we need to be positive with our communication. We need to answer the phone in a positive manner. We need to show interest in the person. So if you're meeting a recruiter or anybody, you have their details, check them out on LinkedIn. Find out a little bit about them. Ask them about their role. Show interest in them beyond just the interview. Ask for honest feedback. There's nothing wrong with saying at the end of the interview, hey, just letting you know I'm really interested in this job. Do you mind telling me how I performed on this interview today? You can ask. And have a thankful attitude. Saying thank you after any interaction can actually really mean quite a lot. And therefore, we want to avoid the negative communication traits, so being difficult to be reached. If you are looking for work at the moment, you must have a voicemail. If you do not have a voicemail, if I call up and I'm trying to get through to you and you don't have a voicemail straight away, that's a bad impression. Or if I can't leave a message, that's a bad impression. If you don't like having a voicemail, I understand, but you need to have one when looking for work. Being slow to be followed up. So as I said, if I've asked you to complete a psychometric test or said, get back to me with your references, or can you send me through what you were talking about, do it straight away. You need to know your dates. Don't be vague. If you're inconsistent, if you're not sure, I'm going to doubt you. And our role as a recruiter, we need to be naturally skeptical. We need to be naturally skeptical to do our jobs. And avoid speaking negatively about anything if you can. All right, we're going to finish now by talking about something that, is one of the most challenging parts of the recruitment process. Let's say you've been offered the job, but you haven't been offered the salary that you were hoping for. How do we go about negotiating a higher salary offer? Because what we really mean is show me the money. So first of all, we need to do our research, and we should have done some of this before we go to interview. Is the salary negotiable? Because you don't want to make the mistake of trying to negotiate a salary that can't be negotiated. So what types of salaries can't be negotiated? Well, if you're going for a role with a government organisation, it's very likely that the salary fits within what we call a banding. Let's say it might be a level 2, and a level 2 salary might be between 55 and 60,000. So you could negotiate between level 55 and 60,000, but you couldn't negotiate any higher. And so coming in and expecting and negotiating higher than that is going to make you look a bit foolish. Or if you're applying for a role, say in a contact center where they have 300 customer service agents, those 300 customer service agents all will have the same salary. So you can't negotiate on salary. You also need to understand what the market rate for this position is. You should be able to find that out through research and using the job boards. If you want to negotiate a higher salary, you need to build a case. So you need to show why. You need to show that you know what you're talking about. If the offer is 50,000 and you want 60,000, you need to show why. So you need to show that the market rate is this. You need to bring some evidence with you. You need to demonstrate why you are worth more than the offered salary. So if the offer is $50,000, but you meet all requirements of the role, you need to go in and say, hey, I will bring this, and this to the role. You're offering 60. Your competitors are offering, you're offering 50. Your competitors are offering 60. This is why I'm seeking 60. It needs to be kind of evidence-based. It needs to be factual, not just, hey, you've offered 50, I want 60. That's not going to work. Negotiate in a firm but friendly manner. You need to understand here that everybody has a different view. All employers have a different view on salary negotiation. In my experience, I've had employers who will say, the candidate wants to negotiate salary, that's fine. That's completely understandable. Let's negotiate. Whereas I've had other employers say, they want to negotiate, we've made an offer. If they don't want it, they're out. Actually, even the fact they want to negotiate means they're probably not right for us. You need to be prepared that that might happen. You don't want the offer to be retracted. So you need to be firm, but you need to be fair and reasonable. So that's how we go about negotiating. So that's all for today, folks. Thanks very much for joining me. Feel free to pop any questions that you've got. I'll hang out on the line here for a couple of minutes to see if there's any questions that came through. Feel free to connect with me. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn, James Whitcomb. You can follow me for more advice on looking for work or for the jobs that we advertise through our agency. You can drop me an email there as well. But I'll pause for a moment just to see if any questions come through. As I said before, this is our last workshop. It's our final one for 2023. We've been running at least one a week all year. All year we have run one a week. So I think this is number 49. We won't quite get to 50, but 49 workshops, live workshops this year. Really appreciate your support. Our next live workshop will be in the middle of January. So I'm off on holiday for a couple of weeks after Christmas, and we'll be back in mid-January. So thanks very much for joining me today. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next year.